Good morning, students. So today we're going to be translating expressions, and I've got several different expressions that we're going to translate from a written sentence into an algebraic expression. And we're starting off with one of the most commonly incorrectly translated sentences because I want you to see this one and remember it for good. So let's take a look at the very first sentence provided to us. 8 less than the product of a number and 2. Well, I actually have a little bit simpler one below here that I'd like to start off with, and then we'll work with this one. So let's look, instead of 8 less than, let's look at this one, 5 less than a number. Well, most students, when they see this sentence, they recognize, they know, okay, so they see less than right here. Less than means subtracting. So they say 5 minus a number. So let's use the letter N for a number. And they think, well, I'm done. I just translated the sentence 5 less than a number to 5 minus n. Is that correct, though? Well, let's think about it if we actually replaced a number with an actual number. Like, let's replace it with the number 8, for example. So instead of saying 5 less than a number, let's say 5 less than 8. Well, think about it for a second. What is 5 less than 8? Well, if you think about that for a moment, you'd come to the conclusion that 5 less than 8 is 3. So if we took this translation, which a lot of students think is correct, and instead of putting an n in here, we put in an 8, 5 minus 8, does 5 minus 8 give us 3 like it's supposed to? No. 5 minus 8 would give us negative 3. So what does that tell us about how this expression was originally translated? It tells us it was translated incorrectly. And it's very commonly incorrectly translated when they see this. So here's the thing. When you see less than in a sentence, and you're asked to translate that sentence into an algebraic expression, you need to take what you normally would think it's translated to and flip them. So we're going to put the n where the 5 is and put the 5 where the n is. So the correct translation of 5 less than a number would be n minus 5, not 5 minus n. So let's look at this one up here. 8 less than the product of a number and 2. This one's a little bit more advanced, but I think we can handle it. Well, typically, again, students would start off by recognizing 8 less than the product of a number and 2. So when you hear product, you think of multiplication. So you're going to be multiplying a number and 2. So a number, we'll use n again, and 2, that would be 2 times n, so 2n. But again, we know that when we see less than, we need to take this translation, which is a direct ordered translation from the sentence, and we need to flip the position of these two things. So instead of 8 minus 2n, we'll actually have 2n minus 8. Now there's actually another one that's kind of like this that I wanted to talk to you about, and it's right here. The sentence 7 subtracted from a number cubed. Well, I actually have a more simple one here I'd like to talk about first, and then we'll come back up to this one. We have the sentence 2 subtracted from 5. Well, if you try to translate it exactly as it's read, 2 subtracted from 5. That says 2 minus 5. And 2 minus 5 equals a negative 3. Well, think about it for a second. If you subtract 2 from 5, do you get negative 3? No, you don't get negative 3. 2 subtracted from 5 gives you a positive 3. So this is another example of, if you try to directly translate it from the written sentence, your answer doesn't come out correct. And what you need to do to fix it, again, is to switch these two values. 2 subtracted from 5, translated correctly, should be 5 minus 2. So let's take a look and apply that same knowledge to this one here. 7 subtracted from a number cubed. Well, again, students would try to put 7 first, subtracted from a number. We'll use n, getting cubed. So we'll put a exponent of 3 there. Since we know, though, well, when we see subtracted from, we need to flip these two values. Instead of 7 minus n cubed, we know we should be putting n cubed minus 7. And that is the proper translation from our original sentence. Okay, let's take a look at a couple other ones, much easier because we don't have to remember that rule for these. You can actually translate these exactly as it's read. This one asks you to translate the sentence 1/2 of a number decreased by 12. So the first thing we have to do is translate 1/2 of a number. That's pretty easy to do. 1/2 of a number would be n. We don't know what the number is, so again we're going to use n divided by 2, or cut in half. And then when we say decreased, we're thinking subtraction. And then by 12, so a 12 goes in there. All right, so that one was pretty easy. Let's look at another one. The quotient of a number and 3 increased by 1. So when you hear quotient, you should think of division. So the division of a number and 3. That's going to be the first one that we're going to, the first part of our expression. So a number and 3 being divided, so I'll use n again for a number. Quotient means divided by 3. I also could write that as n divided by 3 if I chose to, but this is a little bit more algebra-y rather than kind of like 6th grade kind of math writing it. So since we're approaching algebra, we want to start writing it more the way you'd write it when you're in algebra. So instead of writing n divided by 3 this way, let's start writing it like this. So the quotient of a number and 3 is written like this, and then we're going to increase it by 1. So when you hear increase, we're thinking of adding. Increase it by what? By 1. And here's the proper translation of our original sentence. Okay, let's take a look at the sum. Sum means we're going to be adding. We're going to be adding some things together. We'll put them in these spots here. The sum of 10 and 1/3 of a number. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put 10 and 1/3 of a number. Well, 1/3 of a number would be 1/3 n. 1/3 times n. Now, how do I know that 1/3 of a number means 1/3 times n? Well, because of this placement of the word of right there, that tells you that right there. When you hear some fraction and then of a number, that tells you that these things are bound together by multiplication, or you can literally just write the fraction times the variable that you're using. So that of, just like a lot of times when you hear other words like sum, you mean to add. When you hear of, you should think you're going to be multiplying. All right, that's the end of my translating expressions video. Hopefully some of the tips that you learned in this video will help you on your SOL test. Have a wonderful day.